Welcome to Savvy Business, Life Unscripted, with your host, Christina Rivera, where our guests share their wisdom and valuable business tips, empowering our audience to expand their personal potential.
Welcome to Savvy Broadcasting, Life Unscripted. Kathy Miller and Shannon Karels, welcome. How are you today, both of you?
We're doing great. Thank you.
Oh, I'm really happy to have you here. I told you just briefly before we hit the go button that we've never had anyone come on and talk about the manufacturing business, but you're coming from that perspective. You've written a new book called STILETTOS and STILETTOS, a true story of women manufacturing leaders and lean transformation success. I love the title, but you're going to share some of your wisdom in your line of business. But before we go to all of that wonderful details, share a little bit about yourselves.
Okay. Well, this is Kathy, and I literally started working at a vehicle assembly plant at the age of 17 as a co-op student. Mm-hmm. So I started on the factory floor at that time and have spent many decades since in and around manufacturing, all the way from being a project engineer through a global director, managing worldwide operations of many plants. And now Shannon and I have co-founded a company called OPSisters and written a book, and we're working with individuals, teams, and companies that want to get better business results through creating inclusive cultures and lean manufacturing principles.
Now, before we go deeper here, what exactly is lean? What does that mean?
Lean manufacturing? Principle. Yeah, that's a great
what does that
question.
mean? I never heard of that before.
Okay. Yeah, a lot of people haven't, unless you work in manufacturing sometimes, but it's based on the Toyota production system. Huh. And traditional manufacturing is generally batch manufacturing, where you have, you run big batches and avoid changeovers and those sorts of things. And in those types of systems, sometimes there's quite a bit of waste. So what you're trying to do with lean manufacturing is to flow value at the rate of customer demand with the highest quality and least costs.
Oh, cool. All right, Shannon, welcome. Let's hear a little bit about your background.
Thank you. Shannon Karels. I actually started my background in supply chain management. I was recruited right out of college into a large corporation where I spent the first decade or so of my career learning all the different functions within the supply chain world. And then I went through a lean transformation in one of the plants I was working in. And that's when I fell in love with those lean methodologies. So Kathy had actually opened a position at her division, and I applied, and so that's how we started working together. And then from there, I moved on and started running different manufacturing plants, and then ended up here with Kathy.
Wow, what a wonderful union that you had symmetry and understanding that we could help other factories and people. Now, have you been a mentor also for people thinking of entering into the arena of manufacturing?
Yes. And that's been one of our goals with writing our story, is to show young women that want to get into this industry that they can be successful and have a really fulfilling career.
I love that. It's interesting. I don't think many people think when they finish high school that, hey, here's an option we don't even think about. People think, I'm going to go to college. I don't know what I'm going to do yet. Let me waste all this money on college. And then, you end up coming out of college with a degree that you end up not using and $150,000 in debt. And it was the guy, Mike Rowe from Dirty Jobs. He would say, he was like, there is an opportunity to do service type jobs like plumbing, manufacturing, that is really, really needed, that people don't even put into their database as something they can pursue.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know about it unless someone in their family has been in manufacturing. So I stumbled across it. My dad was in sales. My mom was in IT. And I just discovered it because I needed to find a way to fund my college. And it was a great program where you went to school 6 months a year and then you worked in a manufacturing business the other 6 months. So I didn't have to come out $150,000 in debt back then. So
that's awesome. And what are some of the wisdoms you've learned through working in manufacturing that could apply to all businesses?
Oh gosh, there's so many. That's a tough question, but I think what Kathy and I really experience is we kind of lump everything that we learn into three categories, and it's all about relationships, realities, and results.
Hmm.
So when we talk about each one of those, people are the foundation of business. And so as we were working together and developing our leadership styles, it was all about the people and communicating and how this impacted them and what we were asking them to do. And we just found that to be really powerful, that we wanted to build trust by developing relationships with all the people.
I really like that. It's every single time I've had someone come and talk about sales or whatever it is that exploded their business, it started with good relationships, and building those relationships to be strong. Because if you're going to start a business and not think about the people you're serving, you're not going to go that very far.
Exactly.
Yeah. So among your stories, because your whole book is true stories of women who have succeeded, is there stories that pop out as being really inspirational to you? Where do we begin?
Well, I think it's really a story of resilience. So when Shannon and I started working together at this division, it was a very traditional batch operation. And we came in as new leaders in different positions, but with the same mission, and just trying to convince everybody, right, that they needed to change. So you had that first obstacle to overcome of people looking at you, thinking they can outlast you, for the next leader or the next, fancy initiative to come along. So that requires quite a bit of perseverance. And then in the story, what we're trying to do is get some recognition for the team by becoming a model plant. And it just felt like every time we got very close to meeting the criteria changed a bit. And the team got very discouraged by that. And I'm a very inclusive leader, and I take the recommendations of my team, but I just did not want them to give up on this. I really felt like they deserved that recognition. So I don't want to give away the plot or, the ending, but it really is a story about resilience. And I think that's hopefully what inspires other people, regardless of gender or what type of business they're in.
Yeah, I love that, because it is true. There will be difficult times if you're starting your own business, or if you're going into someone else's business, you're starting out from day one out of college, high school. It's a resilience game, because you have a lifelong time of work. You're going to have to work in order to put food on your table, and you don't want to give up. You want to have the best results. Now, I'm curious, one thing you mentioned about diversity, being women, and when you hear of manufacturing, you don't think of women very much. Was there some difficulties getting started as being women in the manufacturing business? Was there a little bit of prejudice in that area?
Kathy and I talked a lot about this when we were writing the book. And, when we were in it, yes, we noticed that there weren't a lot of females. We didn't have a lot of female role models to help us navigate this world. So we just kind of figured it out on our own. And, we just saw ourselves as people that were there to do a good job and to work really hard. And we were getting results, which is why we were able to excel in our careers. But when we were talking about the book, there were definitely stories that came up that we looked at in hindsight and said, man, that was really inappropriate. And, we just kept powering through because we just had so much work to do. We didn't have time to focus on anything like that. But yeah, there definitely, and we tell some stories about some challenges and some comments that were made that were uncomfortable and inappropriate. And we felt excluded at times by men only type of activities and events. But besides that, we just were solid workers that got results. And in the end, that's what matters.
I love that. Yeah. And I think for any business you work at, if you're, say, coming out of college or high school and said, what do I have to know about the working world? Really, if you produce results, you're going to be someone that is going to be, they want to keep around. I had heard one leader say, what you want to do is make yourself indispensable. If you can come in, not only produce results, but the go-to person for whatever you're doing, you're not going to be fired. Hopefully.
My motto was always to try to be high value, low maintenance in whatever operation I was in.
Yeah, it makes total sense. And what was the impetus for creating the book? Now, I get working together and helping businesses, but what made you sit down and go like, we're going to put this into a story and a book?
We were together one weekend and we were just reminiscing about the time that we had spent together. This is when we both moved on to other, other locations, and just started thinking about our time together. We were laughing and telling stories. And, as we just kept thinking about it, we thought, you know what, there's really not a lot of female leaders and executive leaders in manufacturing. There's not a lot of people who look like us in these positions. And while there's a lot of talk about diversity, talk about women entering STEM careers, there's still quite a gap in terms of, coming up with balance in the genders in those areas. And so we thought, you know what, we have a story here. Let's put this together. And how sometimes you have these brainstorm ideas and then you go back to your normal life and don't think about it. Well, the next day Shannon called me. She said, I've got a name for our book, Steel Toes and Stilettos. And a month later we got together and tried to outline the timeline and fill in some of the fun stories and some of the learning, right, that we had about along the way. Yeah. And because it's not just, a comedy book, right? Yeah. But it's really a roadmap to help people transform their businesses as well. So that's how it all came to be.
Yeah. And it's true. I mean, I think, like we just talked about earlier when we got started with our conversation, is I don't think when people get out of college, like I was talking to one gal, she became a lawyer, and she's like, I thought it'd be a nice career. My parents wanted me to do something big like a doctor or a lawyer. And she became a lawyer. I mean, she got the JD and she hates it. So now she's working in fashion, totally different. Her parents were like, oh my gosh, what are you doing? All that money spent. But what I like about this is that you're giving people the option, letting them learn that, hey, there's other avenues to take that could be an amazing career that's not the usual that people think about when they go out there to create a career.
Absolutely.
Well, the thing that we're so excited about with manufacturing is so many disciplines are involved in manufacturing, right? So if you study accounting, you can go work at a manufacturing firm, right? If you're an HR professional, there's all of the things, and people can work with their hands as well, right?
Yeah.
So people of all skills, all educational levels can add value and get good jobs to take care of their families. And that's why we're so passionate about creating strong manufacturing companies.
Yeah. Yeah. What's your take on it, Shannon, too?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's just so much opportunity. And when Kathy and I started to talk a lot about this, we realized that although her and I are very different, there is so much opportunity for both of our personalities and all of our unique talents. And it just is this industry that gets thought of in often negative connotation because it's dirty and why are you working in a manufacturing plant? But it's really not that way anymore. And it is just this place where you can just bond with these amazing people towards a common goal. And it's just a great place and industry to be a part of.
Yeah. And I love that both of you focus on, it's a great industry and you're there to produce results for whatever company you're working at. Because wherever you work, whatever company, if you choose fashion, media, manufacturing, if you come at it like, I want to feel at the end of my workday that I did my absolute best and I went home and I kicked butt as whatever I could put in for my skills and talents, I put in my most. I think we all did that. It'd be amazing across America and across the world.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I don't want us to leave without everyone finding out how they can get their very own copy. How can they do that?
Yes, so any major book retailer, Amazon, Routledge, which is our publisher, Barnes & Noble, or you can go to our website, OPSisters.com.
Ooh, I love that. OPSisters. Everyone go get your very own copy of Steel Toes and Stilettos. I'm one that I'm sure is going to give many insights and lessons to help anyone, whether you're a business owner or just getting started in the workplace. Thank you so much. I really thank you, Kathy and Shannon, for coming to join us today on Savvy Broadcasting.
Thank you very much for having us.
You betcha.
like, subscribe, and share this episode. To listen to more savvy episodes and savvy biz tips, go to www.lifeunscriptedradio.com. To find out about our paid sponsorship opportunities or how to become a guest, email Christina at lifeunscriptedradio.com.